Vernon Sanders said, experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. One of the things that really hurt our class program was the initial advice I got was to do unlimited memberships and put people on a 7-month or a 12-month contract. That will never work for me. Well, then you don't believe. And if you don't believe, it probably isn't going to work. And welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are talking about how I need you to stop saying the words, "that won't work for me." And I am coming to you from the perspective of someone who has built 3 different businesses and been in the position where I have thought certain things wouldn't work. And in reality, I was just very wrong. Now, before we get into the episode, I am going to ask you, please get in our Facebook groups, get into Cheer Gym Owners if you're a gym owner, or All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners if you are a cheer coach, and check out our conference in Vegas in January. If you are looking to grow your gym and scale it to a level you have not experienced before, you've got to get to our conference. We have a ton of great content, and it's going to be absolutely amazing, and I will be there. So I'd love to meet you if you're a listener and we have not met yet. Now, in 2014, I had a situation where I did this exact same thing, where I was saying that something wouldn't work for me. And in 2014, Tori and I had owned the gym for a couple years, and we were just starting to get business coaching. And I was speaking with the individual who we were having kind of consult our business and teach us how we could do some things differently. And this individual really only had one trick. And their one trick was getting classes going and getting people on certain memberships, et cetera, with your classes. So getting more recreational tumbling going. I was arguing with this person that I was paying all of the reasons why they were wrong and why that would never work for me, and how our business was just different and our clients were just different and everything about us was just different and it just wouldn't work. And, people in our area don't really buy online like that. And people in our area don't sign up for recreational tumbling like that. And people don't do this and people don't do that. And the fact of the matter is that I was just making up excuses, and these different things were actually not reasons why it couldn't work for me. They were reasons why it maybe had not worked in the past, or it was challenging my false beliefs. I do want to say that one of the really important things in this situation, though, is to make sure when you're in this position, when you are getting advice, when you're learning how to do things, that you're learning from people who actually know the correct steps. And unfortunately, this individual, although they gave us some really good advice, there were some things that they told us to do that now are absolutely wrong and were things that were negatively impacting our ability to convert. And they were actually things that I brought up, like, hey, okay, now after I had eventually said, okay, let's do this, there were things I brought up that I was like, hey, this isn't really working because of, this is a friction point. How do we fix that? And their answer was like, you don't. They just have to deal with it. And that ended up needing some tweaking and needing some massaging, but I had to figure it out. So one of the things and one of the reasons why it's so important to make sure that you stop saying that won't work for me is there really are 3 different reasons why it doesn't work for you. And number 1 is that you lack the knowledge to do it correctly, or you're getting bad advice, kind of like I mentioned. Vernon Sanders said, experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. And oftentimes we spend a lot of time learning as business owners through our experiences, where we've experienced this thing and now I've now learned the lesson and now I can iterate and make changes. And that creates a challenging situation, because if you don't open yourself up to new things, then you can't ever experience them to learn, which goes into my lack of knowledge. You don't actually know how to do the thing. And I can literally count off, I'll just list some of them. I didn't think that birthday parties would ever work in our gym. Now they crush. I didn't think that tumbling classes would ever become big in our gym. Now they crush. I didn't think that we could ever move private lessons into being something that ran through the gym, because every coach would quit. Now they do great for us, and my coaches didn't quit. I didn't think that I would ever be able to scale dream camps outside of Oregon and outside of the very little niche that we had. Now we are in 4 different states and offering so many different opportunities. I never thought that Next Gen could become the company that it was going to become because we would be limited by the size of the cheer industry. And now we get the opportunity to impact hundreds of cheer gyms, helping them grow their businesses. These were all things that I just didn't think would work. In fact, they did work. And all I needed was the actual knowledge of how to execute the thing. So I needed to learn how to execute tumbling classes correctly. I needed to learn how to run a trial program. I needed to learn how to market. I needed to learn how to run my social media. I needed to learn how to create a podcast. I needed to learn how to do all of these things. And it wasn't that they wouldn't work. It's that I just didn't know how to do them. I didn't know how to run and market and promote effective birthday parties. And then once we cracked that nut, things started to improve. Like the knowledge was the key. Now, the other factor would be that you're getting advice from the wrong people. And this is, I think, a really, really important one because there is all sorts of well-intentioned bad advice in the industry and in the world in general. The general rule of thumb is if someone does not have the thing that you want in the manner that you want it, then don't take their advice. Like, I don't want to take the advice of people who have no idea what it takes to run a cheer gym, advice of why I should be running my cheer gym the way I should. Concurrently, like you can listen to people's advice, but it may not be the best advice, right? I don't want to take advice about investments and money from someone who doesn't have any money and doesn't have any investments of their own. Like that's a bad recipe. So I want to learn from the people who are actively doing the thing that I want to be doing right now and doing it with great success, because I want to figure out, okay, I want to get the knowledge of how are you doing that thing? And then how can I pull that into what I'm doing and grow from it? And we continue to grow together. And I truly believe that there is more than enough space in the industry. In fact, we are an underutilized market. In my opinion, there is still plenty of room for growth in the cheerleading gym community. There are still plenty of athletes in many of the areas that people are saying are oversaturated. They may be saturated from the perspective of elite, competitive, all-star kids who are willing to travel the country and compete. That may be slightly saturated in some areas, but people will always say, oh, Dallas or Texas is oversaturated with cheer. Yet it continues to grow. There's gyms everywhere. There's tons of small gyms and D1 gyms, and it's really saturated. Now, granted, there's a lot of people in Texas, but there's a lot of people in a number of different states where you have the opportunity to grow. So if people like Samantha can grow their gym in a town of 1,000 people, or Danielle can grow Twisters to what it can be in a town of 43,000 people, with many of them being military PCSing and not a lot surrounding. Like if they can do that, then we can continue to grow this market. So you are lacking the knowledge in how to execute. And I previously mentioned I got some bad advice. One of the things that really hurt our class program was the initial advice I got was to do unlimited memberships and put people on a 7-month or a 12-month contract. And the theory being that everyone would get on a 12-month contract because a 7-month was more expensive. And so they were actually getting a much better deal to do 12 months, and you'd get that commitment for the 12 months. And the reality was that so many sales really hit the brakes hard on that contract because people are like, well, I don't want to do 12 months. My athlete plays softball. And so we need to stop for these 3 months. And you would do pauses, but then people don't come back. It was just a really complex and convoluted problem, and it created a bunch of issues. Plus the unlimited tumbling. I've already done an episode on this, but like, holy moly, the mecca of bad advice, because I was filling over I think 25 classes with less than 80 kids. It was just not working out. The numbers did not work. The math didn't math. And that was definitely bad advice. Although the initial advice of start recreational tumbling was fantastic and very valid. The number 2 problem is that the reason that it won't work for you is that you lack the infrastructure to make it work. Meaning you have a weak website, or you have no sales follow-up, or you have a staff that's been poorly trained, or you don't have the actual space to implement the program. There are a number of different reasons that relate to your infrastructure that are so important to solve. So I've had people say, birthday parties will never work for me, or I can't grow a class program. It won't work in our gym. Our demographic doesn't want it. Your demographic wants it. Yes, I could be wrong. There are probably some areas where they don't, but generally speaking, cheer is something that is wanted. People are looking for it. They are looking for tumbling. They are looking for active outlets for their kids. And so there is a demand, generally speaking, throughout the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, Mexico. I mean, there's cheer everywhere. So there is demand. The issue is you don't have the infrastructure to tell people about your existence, or you don't have the ability to email out and get people converting. Like, it takes effort to get clients. Yes, it's really awesome. Everyone wants to start a business that they throw a name up on the wall and everyone's like, oh my gosh, there is, XYZ world champion cheerleaders, and I'm going to go there right now. And you don't have to market, and just the word of mouth crushes and everyone talks about how awesome you are. And that's great. And word of mouth can absolutely help build your brand. But those are very, very rare circumstances. And we actually see this all the time in our industry with people who have a not super successful small gym, and then they pay a franchise fee to a larger gym, hoping that just by changing the logo and changing the name, that they're going to get a bunch more clients. And that is oftentimes not the case. Now, there are some franchise groups that do a really great job of giving you infrastructure and giving you support. And then there are others that don't. I'm not going to speak about any specifically. I'm just saying I've worked with gyms who've done the wide array of different franchise models, and some seem to give more infrastructure, which help those programs grow, and some give less, and then they just kind of stay stagnant, and they're not really worried about how that gym does. They just want those franchise payments, which from a business perspective, I get that you want those franchise payments. So you need to make sure that your infrastructure is in place and look at that. Like, is it my infrastructure that's the problem? Why is it not working? Not because it actually doesn't work for me, but there's something that is within my control that I can change to make this thing work better. The number 3 is that you lack the focus or the belief to actually make the thing work. Now, if you are not focused on the thing, so if you say, well, I tried to do birthday parties and they didn't work, and so birthday parties don't work for me in my gym. Well, were you actually putting in any effort to them? Like, for the years that I was like, birthday parties don't work for us, well, all I did was say, we offer birthday parties, and put a little flyer up at the front desk, and we would do 1 or 2 here or there, but like nothing big. And I was like, this is a waste of time. This is dumb. I wasn't doing anything to grow them, though. I wasn't doing any of the right things that would be necessary to make birthday parties take off. And then remarkably, once we focused on it and said, this is a real opportunity, and we got staff in place to work it, and we built a curriculum, and we built a pricing plan, and we put it on our website, and we started sending emails, and we started recognizing kids on their birthdays, and we started sending email reminders to athletes in the program that had birthdays coming up, and we offered incentives for people who attended birthdays to share with their friends and or enroll after they attended a birthday party at the gym. Suddenly the snowball started rolling and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and now more and more people come to our gym for birthday parties, to where it is actually a substantial portion of our revenue, which is fantastic as we stare down moving into a new building with a much higher rent. So we've built out that, we focused on it, we built out the program, and then suddenly, remarkably, it works, rather than just saying we offer recreational tumbling and giving it no additional effort. And that's how we initially started. We were like, we're offering recreational tumbling, and we tried a bunch of things. We threw a bunch of dirt at the walls to see what stuck, and we were just kind of doing the shotgun approach rather than doing the really laser focus. These are the actual steps that work. And it took us a lot of experiential learning to figure it out, as well as advice from good friends who had done it more successfully than us. The other is that you don't have the belief in it. So if you're sitting there and you're saying that will never work for me, well, then you don't believe. And if you don't believe, it probably isn't going to work. If you truly don't believe that you're capable of it, if you just are like, nope, this is just never going to work for us, then it's not going to work for you because you don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, your employees aren't going to believe it. Your clients aren't going to believe in it. You need to actually have faith and belief so you can focus on the thing and know that it's going to happen. So I just want you to eliminate that from your lexicon of that won't work for me. And I'm going to give you a couple strategies at the end of the podcast, but just take that out of your verbiage. And just that small change will change your mindset. I'm not saying everything works in every business. Okay. Many strategies that can work in your business if you follow the right plan. And then from there, you have to decide, is this something I want to gain the knowledge in, build the infrastructure in, and give my focus to? And is it the right time to do those things? And I'm going to break those down right at the end for you. I was having a conversation with a gym owner years ago, and this is all the different things of where that won't work for me can apply. And this gym owner was running a relatively successful program, was fantastic, nothing but respect for this person. And they were like, yeah, I don't actually pay my employees. They're all volunteers. And I kind of said, full stop, we need to fix that because volunteer coaches is a bad recipe and is unfair to the coaches. And you're going to, I laid out the whole path for all the different reasons why I thought it was bad. And they were like, well, yeah, that just won't work here. Like that just doesn't work here. People don't want that. People don't want to have that kind of commitment, and that won't work for us because of revenue and XYZ. She had all of the different excuses lined up for like why that wouldn't work for her, even though I had kind of laid it out. And so after a number of discussions, we eventually decided that, hey, we're going to start paying our coaches. Like, we're not going to just ask for volunteers every season. We're going to actually have paid employees that we can train, that we can do all of these different things with. And now fast forward 2.5 years, all of her employees are paid. She's got multiple full-time staff. She's now barely at the gym. Like, she doesn't even have to work at the gym except for when she coaches. We actually had a conversation the other day and she was like, yeah, I don't register my teams for competition at all. She doesn't even have to do that because she has full-time staff that do it. So she's bought back a lot of her time using those employees, something that never would have been possible with a staff that is all volunteers. And so for what started out as that won't work for me and my business with the way that we have built things and the goals that I have, we found that there were actually a better way to do it. And it's only because she shifted her mindset. So as you leave the episode, the next time that you would say, that would never work in our gym, or that would never work for me, or that would never work for us, I want you to ask yourself the why. Why won't it work for you? What is it about that thing that makes it so it won't work? Is it your lack of knowledge? Is it your lack of infrastructure? Is it your lack of focus or belief in the product? And if those things are in place, the last step is this something that I want or would make my life better? Now, the ultimate thing is, don't do something new if the thing you're already doing is working really well and can be continued to grow. So if you can just do more of the thing that you're already kicking booty at and you can make more money, then just do that thing more. Don't start something new and try and reinvent the wheel, because it is going to take a lot of focus. It is going to take a lot of energy, which means you're going to have to take some focus on off of some other things. So you want to be strategic about this. But most of the time I hear this "that wouldn't work for me" concept is when people post on Facebook and they say, how do you do X? How do you get more athletes in the gym? How do you get athletes to attend practices? How do you get your kids to take cheer more seriously? How do you do the stuff with parents? And then people come on like me and they give advice and they go, try this, we do this. These are strategies that we've used that work really, really well. And then they immediately fire back, oh, well, that won't work in our area, or that won't work for us, or our parents would never go for that, or our athletes would never go for that. And well, then why are you asking? And is it really the parents and is it the athletes, or is it issue with you? Is it an issue with your knowledge, your infrastructure, or your focus and belief? Now, ultimately, if it's not something that you want, then you don't need to do it. So that's the last thing to assess, is like, is this person who's giving me the advice on the thing living the reality that I want to live? So if you post and you say, hey, I need help getting athletes to attend practice, and the person responds, hey, we were having attendance issues and we had 70% attendance regularly, and then I did X, Y, and Z, and now I have 100% attendance at the vast majority of our practices. We went from 70% average attendance to a 98% average attendance. You're like, wow, I really want that. But the things that you're saying to do, I don't think would ever work for us. Maybe listen to what they're telling you and utilize that resource, because they're actually doing the thing that you want. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Remember, Stop saying that won't work for me. Get to our conference in Vegas and make sure you've joined our Facebook group so you can stay up to date on everything we have going on in Next Generation Gym Owners. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode.